Birth of the Big Mac. Man who invented burger 50 years ago didn't make billions, but got a plaque. If corporate McDonald's had had its way 50 years ago, the Big Mac wouldn't exist, but the dogged determination of a World War II veteran catapulted the sandwich into culinary history, and it's remained a favorite meal worldwide ever since. The man behind the Big Mac was a native of western Pennsylvania named Michael James "Jim" Delligatti, an Army sergeant who'd hitchhiked across the U.S. following the war, eventually working in drive-ins and car ops in California. He returned to his home state and opened a fast food joint of his own with a business partner in Pittsburgh in 1953. 2 years later, he fatefully went to a restaurant convention in Chicago where McDonald's had a booth. He thought he could do better with some costs, so he signed up with them to open a franchise in western Pennsylvania. His son, Michael, told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in 2016 after his father's death at the age of 98. Delligatti opened up his first McDonald's on McKnight Road in Pittsburgh in 1957, and he went on to become a prolific franchisee. Within the next decade, however, he had come to believe that he could build a better sandwich that would boost his profits. He'd opened some restaurants at that point, and he was looking to improve and gain more sales, Michael told the newspaper. He wanted to create a larger sandwich that people would really like. He asked McDonald's and they turned him down several times. Finally, they said okay. The company gave him permission as long as he used ingredients already available within a McDonald's kitchen, though he flouted the rules a bit with his tinkering, in a move that would rake in billions for the fast food giant. He was fooling around and came up with the Big Mac. But the buns he had wouldn't work because the meat would slide around. So he went to a local bakery and got a double-cut bun with sesame seeds, which was more visually appealing, his son said. The next step was to develop the special sauce, though the family remained sworn to secrecy on that, his son said. In 2012, however, a corporate chef may have shared that secret, releasing a video that demonstrated how to make the special sauce. The ingredients: mayonnaise, sweet pickle relish, yellow mustard, white wine vinegar, garlic powder, onion powder and paprika. Delligatti first began selling the sandwich, which initially went by different names, such as the Aristocrat and the Blue Ribbon Burger, at his franchise in Uniontown, about an hour outside of Pittsburgh, in 1967 for 45 cents. He later acknowledged the Big Mac's similarity to a popular sandwich sold by the Big Boy chain. This wasn't like discovering the light bulb. The bulb was already there. All I did was screw it in the socket, the franchisee said, according to Behind the Arches. He was often asked why he named it the Big Mac, and he said because Big Mac sounded too funny, his son said in an interview 2 years ago. What was no joke, however, was the Big Mac's popularity, reflected by a marked uptick in sales. At one time we were the lowest volume store of any large city, Delligatti told the Los Angeles Times in 1993. A few years after the Big Mac introduction, we became the largest, a distinction we held for a couple of years. Despite the initial reluctance of McDonald's officials, they approved the burger and began selling nationally the year after Delligatti devised it. It would become a cultural phenomenon not just in the United States but across the globe, as the Golden Arches became a firmer fixture in cities internationally. The popularity of the Big Mac would be fueled even further by a jingle listing all of its ingredients: 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. The advertising power of the jingle, created in 1974 by a New York advertising agency, was further enhanced by a promotion in which people on the street were awarded a free Big Mac if they could recite the song in 4 seconds or less. 12 years after the creation of the famous jingle, The Economist invented the Big Mac Index as a light-hearted guide to whether currencies are at their correct level, according to the publication. The index shows whether a currency is overvalued or undervalued based on the cost of a Big Mac in one country relative to the cost in another. Burgernomics was never intended as a precise gauge of currency misalignment, merely a tool to make exchange rate theory more digestible, The Economist explains. Yet the Big Mac Index has become a global standard, included in several economic textbooks and the subject of dozens of academic studies. For those who take their fast food more seriously, we also calculate a gourmet version of the index for 48 countries plus the Euro area. The Big Mac, however, wasn't Delegati's only contribution to the national McDonald's menu. He shrewdly began offering hotcakes and sausage to steel workers coming off their overnight shifts. It was the Big Mac, however, that firmly earned him a place in the history not only of the company but in popular culture. In franchising, there's always this set playbook and you have to follow it. Jim saw an opportunity to go outside the playbook because he knew the customer. Ann Duggan, a former assistant dean of the University of